The San Francisco 49ers are officially proving once again that their success isn't a one-off story, but a consistent pattern of excellence, and the latest proof: the fact that other teams are actively trying to grab pieces of their roster and coaching staff. That kind of attention only comes when you've built something real. Something that continues to perform even when things get messy. The 49ers had a season full of chaos, injuries, and uncertainty. Yet they still managed to stay in the conversation, stay relevant, and keep winning. That's not luck. That's structure. That's culture. That's a team that has been built to endure now. One of the biggest headlines is the departure of Robert Salah to the Tennessee Titans. And I'm going to be honest here, I was wrong about that one. I thought the 49ers had a real shot at keeping him, at least for another season. I thought maybe they could make it happen. Find a way to keep that defensive continuity going, but it didn't happen. Salah signed that 5-year contract, and suddenly the whole defensive landscape for the Niners feels like it's about to change again, and I know a lot of you are upset, because I'm upset too. It's hard not to be when you see a coach that was building something and then just walks away. The bigger question now is, what happens next? Who steps up as the next defensive coordinator? This is going to be the 5th year with a different defensive coordinator in as many seasons. That's wild. It's not exactly a stable situation. And I know a lot of fans are looking at teams like the Kansas City Chiefs and thinking, man, wouldn't it be great to have a consistent defensive leader like Spags, someone who sticks around, someone who can build something long-term and not just come in for a year or two and then leave. The thing is, Kyle Shanahan is still relatively young, and he's surrounded by young coaches too. This kind of turnover is part of the process when you're building a coaching staff with a lot of youth and energy. It's not always the most stable, but it can also lead to fresh ideas and constant evolution. When you look back, we all knew Salah was going to leave eventually. The hope from the moment he was hired was always that he would stay for at least 2 years. Enough time to build a real identity for the defense. And he did that. He was building something huge. But now we're in a spot where the Niners need to decide how to proceed. They have to decide whether they want to go with an internal hire and keep the train moving, or bring in an external candidate and reset the whole system. There's no easy answer here, because there are arguments for both. One of the interesting things about Salah leaving is thinking about who he might bring with him. Will he try to poach any players from the 49ers? And if so, who? For me, the name that stands out is Sam Okwani. He's a player who could fit into what Salah is trying to build in Tennessee. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if Salah tried to bring him in. That would be a move that would hurt, because it's not just losing a coach. It's potentially losing a player who has become an important part of the roster. But that's the reality of the NFL. When someone successful moves on, other teams try to grab what they can in terms of the next defensive coordinator. There are a few names floating around that make sense. Brian Flores is one of them, and it's a pretty interesting possibility. He's a coach who has been linked to multiple jobs, and the fact that he's no longer under contract with the Vikings means it's not impossible. It would be a lateral move, but sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes a coach wants a fresh start, and the 49ers could be an attractive destination. Then there's KJ Wright, who could be a natural internal promotion from within the linebackers coaching staff. He's a guy who has earned respect, and he has the kind of leadership presence that could translate into a coordinator role. Gus Bradley is another name that keeps coming up, and honestly, he feels like the obvious choice. He's experienced, he's proven, and he has the kind of stability that the 49ers might be craving right now. If you want someone who can come in and immediately bring order, Bradley is the kind of guy you look at. He's not a flashy choice, but sometimes you don't need flashy, you just need competent, reliable leadership. And in comparison to what the team had in 2024, Bradley would be a major step up. Let's not forget that the defensive performance last season wasn't great. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't what fans have come to expect from a team with Super Bowl aspiration. So a guy like Bradley, who has experience and credibility, could be exactly what the 49ers need. Now, I know some fans are going to say, we need an external hire, we need a fresh voice, and I get that. I really do. An outside hire can change the energy of a team. It can bring in new ideas, new schemes, and a new identity. But replacing Salah is not the same as replacing someone else. Salah was building something. He was building momentum. And when you have momentum, sometimes the best move is to keep that momentum going. So the internal hire argument is a strong one, because it's the easiest way to keep the train moving in the right direction. But let's not get carried away. It's not like Salah's defense was perfect. In fact, compared to past 49ers seasons, it wasn't great. There were issues, there were weaknesses, and that's important to remember. Salah got more out of this squad than anyone else, no doubt, but the squad still needs work. It needs pieces, it needs upgrades, and it needs a defensive identity that can withstand injuries and adversity. So even if the next coordinator is a great hire, there's still a lot of work to do. That said, the fact that the 49ers were able to be successful this season, despite losing so many defensive pillars, is a huge testament to what the team has built. When you lose key players and still find a way to win games, that's not just coaching, that's depth, that's culture, that's resilience. It's the kind of thing that proves the organization is doing something right. And that's why other teams are looking at these players and thinking, we want that. That's how you know you've built something special. And now we get to the part that really tells the story of this season, the rookie review. If you want proof that the 49ers had a major success this year, look at the way the rookies stepped up. Not every rookie had a massive breakout year, but the team still got meaningful contributions from a handful of young players, and that matters more than people realize. The Niners had to rely on these guys because injuries forced them to. When you see players like AIYUK, Alfred Collins, and Marcel Harris stepping in and making plays, you know the depth chart is not just a list of names, it's a system that works. That's what separates the good organizations from the great ones. Now, when I say AIYUK, I mean up and stout. The rookie safety who came in and basically became a starter, that is a huge deal for a team like the 49ers, which historically doesn't lean on rookies as heavily as some other teams. To have a rookie step in and immediately contribute at a high level is a big win. And it wasn't just him. Alfred Collins also had moments where he showed real potential. He's young, he's still developing, but he's already starting to look like a guy who can be a long-term starter. Marcel Harris, Connor McGovern, even with some inconsistencies, showed that they can handle the pressure and contribute. That's what you want from your rookies. You want them to be able to step up when called upon, and these guys did that. One thing that's important to understand is that this wasn't a season where the rookies were handed roles just because. They earned them. They had to earn them. The 49ers didn't just put them on the field for development purposes. They put them on the field because they needed them, and that's why the contributions feel so real. When you see a rookie like Upton Stout playing at a starter level, you know it's not a fluke. It's a sign of good scouting, good coaching, and a solid development plan. That's the kind of thing that sets up long-term success. When you look at the roster and the draft classes over the last few years, you can see the trajectory. Some picks didn't work out, some did. That's the nature of the draft. Not every year is going to be perfect, but the 49ers have consistently found ways to get value out of their draft picks. Even the ones that didn't become stars, like the 7th round picks, still provided depth. And depth is what you need in the NFL. It's what gets you through a season when injuries strike. You can't rely on a perfect world where everyone stays healthy. You have to build a roster that can survive chaos, and this season was chaos. The fact that the rookies were able to contribute and keep the team competitive is a big part of why this season ended the way it did. Now, let's talk about the rookie snap counts. When you look at the 49ers over the last 5 years, they're down near the bottom in terms of rookie usage. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means they have a lot of established players. Teams like the Bills or the Eagles are in similar situations. They have so many proven players that rookies don't get a ton of snaps. But if you're a team that isn't winning and you're also not playing rookies, that's a problem. That's when you end up stuck in mediocrity. The 49ers are not stuck. They are winning. So the lower rookie usage is not as much of a concern as it might be for other teams. The chart that really interests me, though, is the trajectory. The 49ers had a few years where rookie snap percentage was around 8%. Then in 2023, it dropped to just over 3%. That was a rough draft class. Looking back, you can see why. There were some hits, like T.J. Brown, who became a starter and played a lot, but there were also some misses. Jake Moody, Cameron Latu. Those were not the results you want from early picks. And when you look at the total snaps, it's clear that the draft class that year didn't move the needle the way you want. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. Then you look at 2024 and you see a mixed bag. Ricky Pearsall is a talented player, no doubt. But there are questions about long-term durability and consistency. He dealt with a PCL injury off and on, and until you see a full season of him healthy and productive, you can't fully trust that pick. Renardo Green looks like a solid pick. Dominic Puny is a real win for a third-rounder, because he's been a consistent starter and has shown the kind of performance you want from a player taken at that stage. Malik Mustafa is another good pick, a player who seems to be improving and building into something more. But there are also picks like Isaac Gendu and Jacob Cowing that haven't really panned out yet, and that's okay. Not every pick is going to be a home run. The key is that you have enough positive outcomes to justify the draft. When you look at the rookie contribution in terms of percentage of snaps, you see a jump in 2024 and 2025. That's a good sign. It shows that the team is getting more out of its younger players, and that matters. If you can get meaningful snaps from rookies and sophomores, you can keep the team competitive without spending everything in free agency. That's how you build a sustainable winner. You want a roster that can replenish itself, not a roster that constantly relies on external additions. The 49ers have been doing a good job of that, and this season was another example. Now, let's talk about the experience factor. The 49ers had some big games this year that gave young players a chance to grow. Games like the one against the Seattle Seahawks were brutal, no doubt. That was a game that left a bad taste in your mouth, and it felt like the team missed an opportunity to secure the 1 seed and get a bye. But in the long run, those games matter. They build toughness, they build experience, they build the kind of mental resilience that you can't teach in practice. When you go through a tough loss and then come back and fight, that's what creates a championship mindset. The Rams game at SoFi Stadium was another example. The 49ers were down to bare bones. Injuries were everywhere, the team was struggling, and yet they found a way to compete. It was one of those games where you could see the young players learning in real time, and the kind of moments you saw, like Alfred Collins' 4th and 1 stop, were the kind of plays that define careers. That's the kind of experience that builds confidence. It's the kind of moment that helps a young player understand what it takes to win in the NFL. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to 49ers Zone and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the San Francisco 49ers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The press room fell silent when Brandon Ayuk's voice cut through the usual cliches and controlled answers. What was expected to be a routine media appearance suddenly turned into something far more explosive, with visible frustration and no attempt to soften his words. The wide receiver reportedly raised his voice and delivered a blunt message: "I'm tired of losing." The statement, followed by an alleged request for an immediate trade, sent shockwaves through the league and ignited speculation about a looming breakup that few saw coming so openly. Around the league, whispers have already begun to circulate. Sources close to the situation suggest that this outburst was not a moment of heat, but the culmination of months of internal tension. Ayuk is believed to feel that his prime years are being wasted, that individual effort and growth are not being matched by collective results, while frustrations like these often stay behind closed doors. This time the door was kicked wide open, intentionally or not. Executives and rival scouts are said to be paying close attention. A public declaration like this can accelerate conversations that usually take weeks or months to surface. Some insiders believe the front office may attempt to calm the situation, framing the comments as emotional rather than definitive. Others argue that once a player goes this far in front of microphones, there is rarely a true return to normal. Fans, meanwhile, are divided. Some sympathize with a competitor who wants more than moral victories, while others question the timing and leadership implications of such a statement, regardless of where the truth ultimately lands. The damage may already be done, in a league driven as much by perception as by performance. Ayuk's words have created a narrative that will not fade quietly. Whether this was a calculated move to force change or a raw emotional release, one thing is clear: Brandon Ayuk has placed himself at the center of a growing storm. And until clarity arrives, every silence from management and every rumor from the outside will only fuel the belief that a major move could be closer than anyone expected. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the San Francisco 49ers, Make sure to subscribe to For Niners Zone and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.